The short fiction market has been in a death spiral for more than just the last 20 years, maybe the last 30 years. I've got a chart which will kind of show you how bad it is. But despite this declining market really not being what the audience wants, because everybody has pretty much moved, and I don't know why I get pushback when I say this. This is the truth of the market. To serialized novels, you have to have a series of novels to do well. That is where the market's at these days, and that's where you make money as a fiction writer. It used to be quite the opposite. Short fiction used to be dominant. You used to be able to name from that, but nobody's really reading these magazines anymore for a number of reasons. Part of it's the market tastes, and part of it is just the content that they're producing at this point. But it's an odd flex at this juncture to try to shame the audience for not spending enough money on short fiction and demanding that they pay more so that these magazines can pay the authors more. And it's all about just like this entitled nature of establishment publishing where they believe they deserve the money. They deserve it. And it doesn't pay. I can tell you right now, short fiction, I've sold a few short fictions before. I've watched people in my circles try to build careers off of short fictions. They don't make money. This is very, very true. It is a struggling thing. And we could talk about how we can fix that, or if it's even fixable whatsoever, or if they're trying to make a career out of something, maybe they should be moving a little more towards what the market actually wants. But this ain't it, Chief. This ain't it, Chief. So let's get into this in just a moment. Please hit the like and subscribe button as we talk about all things in science fiction and fantasy. This is your real sci-fi and fantasy news. I appreciate you being here. I've built a career myself just off of my own fiction. I've got 20-plus novels, 13-plus graphic novels out. Been crushing it, and I've sold more than 50,000 copies of my work. This is the Stars and Twine. This is the beginning of my series, and what I found over the course of things, and I've got multiple tests I can show you, that you need at least a trilogy to sell more books. And actually, the longer the series is, the better it tends to perform. So I've got 2 science fiction trilogies out. They're unrelated. I've got a steampunk YA fantasy that's got a 6-book series, and that one, even though I would say it's got a female lead who's a young girl, I'd say most of my audience does not lean towards that as a protagonist and the like. Despite that, it's still my best seller, and it still crushes it and actually performs the best out of all my properties because it's mostly a 6-book series, and of course the cover helps too. Now, the Stars and Twine's beautiful, and it's excellent. It's very, very close. It's doing very well as well. It's not destroyed on that level. But I did make a tie-in to this, and I'll tell you the tie-in. Where's my series? Let's go to the series. It's called Colony Launch, and it's its own standalone fiction. I don't market it as a tie-in, so that's not the problem with it. It is something right here that does not perform as well, even though a lot of people have told me, wow, this is your best work. It's very Heinlein-esque. This is really quality science fiction. It doesn't quite perform as well because it's a 1-book event. And because this 1-book event is not where the audience is at, I try to write in forms of trilogies and things like that now. And so I'd like you to check out the Stars and Twine. I'll put the series page if you want to check out Colony Launch. It's great too. I've got lots of wonderful science fiction. It's in the description below. Support our channel because this is how I make money and this is how I make a living. And this is the answer. As an author, you got to be able to promote yourself, and that's what a lot of these people don't have. And so really appreciate you guys being here. This is a great space opera trilogy. I'm building a space exploration series that's going to dovetail out of this right now. And that series is going to do great, and here's why. I'm immediately going to come out of the gate with a full trilogy that's done before. The whole trilogy is going to be done before I even launch it. And it also will tie into this, and now you've got 6, 7 books in the world that you can buy and read, and of course, people like to binge read at this point. So this is a great spot to get in. Thank you guys. It's available on ebook, print, and audio, and that's just kind of where the market's at as well as just a primer for what's going on. So yes, short fiction's in trouble, and it has been for a long, long time. A lot of magazines have closed up shop. They really haven't done well. Fantasy and Science Fiction magazine, as we know, used to be a bi-monthly magazine, and they've maybe put out an issue or 2 over the last couple of years. Disaster. And here's the chart of where it's at. You can see in the 80s that things were starting to dip a little bit, and here's the crash. And this is where science fiction was at before, and this is 60,000 print circulation at that point before, plus newsstand sales of another 20,000, plus subscriptions of 40,000. Fantasy and Science Fiction magazine was selling 100,000 plus copies a month. This is crazy. This is huge numbers. And like I said, back in the day, a lot of these authors used to write a short fiction deal. Even Ender's Game, one of the most best-selling science fiction novels of all time, was a short story first in one of these magazines, right? Dragon Riders of Pern was a short story in one of these magazines. And they combined a couple short stories. They'd call them fix-up novels. Sometimes they'd make a series out of them. Sometimes they wouldn't. But they'd always go into a novel after that. And the short story concept would be popular or not within the magazine. That's how they know they'd want to pursue it. It was kind of like a pilot episode for a TV show is kind of how they would view a lot of the short fiction stuff. Not only that, but authors loved it because they'd sell the book here as short stories, sometimes serialized short stories. Then they'd sell it again as a book. Then they'd sell it again as a series. And so they'd be able to take their work and of course, make more money off of the same product. Now, as this goes along, the short fiction market, as you can see, just completely collapses. And this is where we were at in 2010. And it looks like fantasy and science fiction at this point has a total of about 20,000 viewers, so readers a month. And it got even less, maybe around 15,000 readers a month at this juncture once we got into 2022 and 2023. Now, subscriptions also collapsed at this 2023 mark because Amazon had all the subscriptions on there, and Amazon cut their subscription program. These magazines didn't have an email list from Amazon, anything like that. That's why it's very important to get on my email list. I always tell people, don't let me lose you. Because, if I don't stay in contact with you, it's a big problem. So make sure that's in the description below too. Number one thing you should do today is actually get on that mailing list so I don't lose you. You get 3 free books for doing so, and that way I don't have to deal with algorithm things and hope to find you again. Because that's a big, big deal. And that's what happened. They lost all their customer base because they were all on Amazon, and none of them were actually directly talking with fantasy and science fiction. And they didn't have a website to support it. So they really collapsed even more after this point. Now, this is where the short fiction market is at. It's a big, big problem. And as you can see, this is where things have been going. And this is the whole market, like Analog, Asimov's, all of it's gone down. Now, a couple places have tried to Kickstarters and tried to do things. But if you look, even like the, let's see, Uncanny Magazine does Kickstarters. Uncanny Magazine does Kickstarters. Kickstarter. And let's see, year 11 goes to 11. Let's look at the most recent last year. They only have 1,000 backers. Well, they've extracted quite a bit out of those 1,000 backers. That's not that much. And when it comes down to it, if they have, how many pages is this? This is, I don't even know how many pages we're talking about. So we're going to talk 2 issues in here, it looks like. 2 issues, we call that 400 pages. We'll call that about 80,000 words of fiction, maybe, times 8 cents a word. They're going to pay $6,400, maybe $8,000 to authors over this. Then they have to pay for art, which is another probably $5,000 for the book. And then they have to pay for the printing of all these, which is going to be about, I could probably tell you right now. Let's see, times 2 times 1,200, about 12,000 also. So then you pay your editors and the like. There's not a ton of profit to be had here, right? And so that's why they had a $30,000 goal for this, because it probably actually cost $30,000 to make this magazine at all. And so that's kind of like where the short fiction market is at, as I mentioned before. And so when you get into this, they're in major problems, and nobody's reading short stories. 1,000 people is not good enough. I don't really put out short stories because you just don't get enough readership. It's not worth the time. It's not worth the money. And so that I've just moved on from that sort of deal. Now, that's tough because a lot of people just write short stories or like want to, and that's their artistic choice. But if you know that's your artistic choice and you want to do that for fun, if you want to do that as a hobby, that's one thing. If you know that you're not going to be able to make money on that, that's another thing. But Amazing Stories has this guy who's like a serial, he's just an angry communist kind of guy. And he's demanding that readers step up because it's just unacceptable. Now, remember, he's talking about the unacceptable pay rates, and he's running a magazine. Well, if put your money where your mouth is, Steve Davidson. If it's unacceptable, go and publish and pay these rates. Of course, you'll go right out of business, and you know this. That's why it's ridiculous to do this. Now, blaming the fans is never a good tactic, but that's exactly what these people always do. If you look at Marvel Comics, DC Comics, whenever they have a collapse or anything, the writers and all that always lash out at the fans because it's some like core to these people in the mainstream publishing industry. They feel entitled. They feel entitled, like, you should be paying this. And it's like, why? You should be entertaining me. That's your job, right? And that's why I try to make everything accessible, right? That's why I give away free fiction. I make my books $4.99. I've got them on Kindle Unlimited. And the reason is, so I've got them on ACX Audible for your credits. The reason is I want to be able to make sure you can come in and make sure you start reading. It's very, very important, because if I assume you're going to like it, and when you, because I try to produce fun, and when I produce the fun and you like it, you'll come back, and that's a big deal. And if you want to support more, that's great too. I've got Subscribestar, which is a Patreon alternative. I have crowdfunds where, we have bigger tiers and things like that. And there's ways to do so, and I really, really, really appreciate those top supporters, because without that, we're probably not in business here. I'll be honest. It's a really good thing. But at the same time, like, trying to shame anybody who just wants to read your work and making it hard for them and making them feel guilty about it is just terrible, terrible idea. That's just such an ugly attitude, and it is the attitude of this industry in a nutshell. So he posted several years ago, Neil Clark, Clark's World Magazine, opined in a powerful editorial, it seemed while SF audience wanted new fiction of the shorter variety, the kind that got this whole thing started, it simply wasn't willing to pay for the privilege. There was a strong disconnect between what it cost to deliver good short fiction and what the audience was willing to pay, nothing, in order to gain access to it. And what this tells me right now with this article, despite Neil Clark saying that there's this disparity, is that that people want new fiction. They don't want the new fiction. They don't want short fiction. That's exactly what it tells you right there. It's not valued, right? Period. Obvious, right? He had a lot more detail and nuance than that in the editorial of why it might be, largely describing negative feedback loop, which markets paid little and charged little in order to stick their toe in, which had educated the market into an understanding that fiction could be had for free. Pirating free libraries also in the mix. I don't know that pirating is really the problem here, but the gist of it is that the market was not willing to step up and pay for what's needed to be paying to support publications and authors who filled their pages. Yes, correct. The market is not there for short fiction now. CPFWA, that's the Science Fiction Writers Association, has set that rate at 8 cents per word, and that's what they consider a pro rate. And they want you to have a pro rate so you can qualify for CPFWA or whatever, and that's that. I've qualified several times. They've denied my application. Very, very sad over there. But they're a political entity that's a big waste of time, and that's what it comes down to. And a lot of these people are just political hatchet jobs. And this Davidson guy, also a political hatchet job. That's what he stands for. And that's why his circulation is down, right? I mean, you tune out half the country, you tell them they're not wanted, and you say it's in the name of inclusivity. Nobody wants that. And all of these magazines have pushed that so hard that a lot of what they offer to read is insufferable. So what you have left is a bunch of angry broke people, because they're all political activists who are communists, and those angry broke people don't have money to spend on stuff, so they want free stuff, right? And so you've courted that audience, right? And so this is kind of on the type of audience you've courted as short science fiction over the years as well. That's a part of it. But the next part of it is just the content is not there for normal people to want either. And so normal people are not going to support that at the same time. It's very simple. So there's also another problem. I'm just going to go into the whole problems with this. One, readers' markets, right? We talked about this. The reader market is not for short fiction. It's for, they want to stay with the same character and binge read something. And that comes from the Netflix binge watching habit. That's how our society works for entertainment at this point. They like familiar characters they can see over and over and over again. On top of this, you have your activism in politics, which makes half the country not welcome or even wanting to look at this. And then even the ones that are on your side, half of them don't want to read it, because it's just so ham-fisted and terrible, it's obnoxious. Number three, a lot of these magazines have become very formulaic. And so when I noticed, and I actually read, was a first reader for one of these magazines back in the day, where I would reject or accept things based on things. And what the editorial wanted was this formulaic sort of deal where there's a mystery, and the mystery has to do with some science fiction-y thing. And it's got some weird horror element to it or something, and then there's a twist at the end, and that twist just turns it all on its head. And because every story has that twist, nothing has a twist, because the twist is coming. It's going to be something different than what's being led up to, and therefore, it's a very formulaic story. It just loses interest. There's no experimentation really going on in these magazines at this juncture anymore. It's really, really sad on the content level. So those are the three main reasons I think short fiction as a market is not working at this point. So that's low for the 8 cents award. Since they've gotten rid of the penny, you probably can't even put together what change you're lying around. That's so low that if it were the difference between completing a transaction of anything else, no one would quibble over it. Hey, I'm 8 cents short. Don't worry about it. Robert Heinlein once stated that authors were competing for beer money. I just checked. You can get custom printed beer coasters for a penny apiece. Folks, authors are not competing for beer money these days. They're competing for beer coaster money. And yes, that is pitiful, disgraceful, disgusting, unacceptable. Well, yeah, but you're also not writing for a market where you're going to actually make money. I am. I've got series on Amazon, and I do make money, and I make a full-time living doing this at that. And it's because I write what the audience wants, and that's kind of your job as an author. If you want to do this as a career, you make it a career. These people just like, again, it's entitlement here, and this attitude is just the sickeningness, and it makes you not want to support these people, right? I'm grateful, by the way. Thank you so much for all your support. You've done amazing. Really appreciate everybody who reads, and that's how you should have it as an attitude, right? But that's not the way it is with these people. These people demand you pay more, and if you don't, you're a bad person. It's like, well, wait, what? And that's the attitude here that is really harming the industry as well, because again, it just makes people tune out. When Gernsback first started Amazing Stories, some of the pulp magazines even then were still paying as little as a quarter of a cent per word. There I said it, happy now, between a quarter and 2 cents per word of fiction. Amazing Stories, half a cent, was average at the time of similar pulp magazines. Folks, 1 cent in 1926 had the current buying power of 18 cents today, 2 cents, 36 cents today. Now, a lot of other things has changed as well, but not the least of which fuel costs have increased, etc. Making a living is hard, and you're not going to make a living as a short fiction writer right now. Like I said, if you want to be a hobbyist, if you see the people who are serial short fiction writers that are in the space, usually it's a woman who has a husband who's actually making the money, and this is kind of her, quote, career, so she's, quote, doing something. I'll just be honest about it. And that's what you see for the most part for people who are trying to make livings off of short fiction. If you sold a 7,500-word short story to a sounding in 1930, you'd have a check for $150, and you're likely to have met your nut for the month. An average one-bedroom was $18 a month. A meal dinner would average about 70 cents. And yes, I get all this right now. Top markets today, you get about $750 for your short story. Maybe you sell 3 or 4 of those a year. He's right. You're not going to make a living at this. And that's the reality because of the short fiction market. Because Amazing Stories back then was selling 1 million copies a month. These days, it's selling, what, 5,000 copies? Even if that? You'll have to tell me, Steve Davidson. That's why you can't survive off of it, right? And so that's the nature of you get paid what the audience is paying. And it's not the fact that the audience isn't paying enough per issue, that they need to pay $20 or $30 or $40 per issue. It's the fact that there's not an audience for it, even at the current rates per issue. Not having the audience is the problem, not what the audience is paying. And this is where he's going to get way off the rails real quick. So earning out will run you about $20. So okay, I'm going to ignore all the what it costs to live, because everybody knows what it costs to live. On the other hand, and this is what he says, I'm betting readers do value authors and their works. Yes, you do. Like me. Thank you. And what's funny is people like Steve Davidson don't want me to make a living. In fact, he wants me to fail, which is really, really funny. It's like, if you guys kind of figured things out and stop trying to hate people in the industry over politics and all that, you might get a little further, guys, because I'm building a network here, building an influencer network here that is actually selling books, and not just for me, for a lot of other people too. And if everybody kind of got on board and kind of built things, it would be a lot easier to do so as well. But they are looking at the weed. They're looking at the weeds in their deal, and not just stepping back out and going, oh, this whole thing's filled with weeds. We need to go to a different garden, right? And that's unfortunately that's a good metaphor, isn't it? And so I'm betting that they're willing to step up if they're given the opportunity. Maybe not quite covering 67 cents per word, but certainly more than 8 cents. I think the evidence is around us that they are. I mean, go look what paperbacks costs. Me, I choke whenever I see the cover price of my first Baseline, what it cost me to buy those first Heinlein novels. Those same books are now $13 or more. Anyway, the point is this. We know that you are willing to pay something close to what modern science fiction is worth, because you're already doing it every day when you plunk down 10 books for an ebook or $15 for a pay. Who has a $10 ebook? That's crazy. Mine are $4.99, my friends, and I'm not changing it anytime soon. Now all you have to do is extend that same calculus and same perceptual hand-wavium when it comes to magazine issues. Think of it not as an increase of cost, but as a savings because you're not having to pay 67 cents per word. So this is shaming people, saying, you guys should be paying more for short fiction. We should be able to charge more, and that will solve things. Very, very weird take on this. And instead of growing the audience, instead of not trying to blacklist people and harass people over politics and the like, they need to get out of that zone if they want to have a bigger audience. It's very, very obvious at this juncture. And this is just so simple. But again, it's all about entitlement with these group. They don't want to improve their craft. They don't want to get to a point and sell things that the audience wants. They just want the audience to just clap for them for doing what they're doing anyway, and demand it from you like you're supposed to cover it. And gosh, that's going after the audience is never a good way to market things. A little bit longer of a video than usual today, but this is a big, important topic. I don't think short science fiction really has that much of a market. I think that's a big problem, and I don't see a way forward for it so much. And so I would just say, it's cool. You want to write some short stories, have some fun, view it as that. If you want to view it as a pilot testing ground, if you got a Patreon or Subscribestar like I do, and you test your audience, see if they like it that way, it's great use of short fiction, and then build that into something that actually sells like a series, and you'll probably make more money. But you have to also get rid of all this weird political agenda, the entitled attitudes, the sort of formulaic garbage that's being put out by the industry right now. There's a lot of problems there that need to step up, and telling the audience you got to pay more of your fair share is not the way forward. Leave a comment down below with what you think about this. Please hit the like and subscribe button. Guys, love you to check out my books on Amazon. If you want to check out the single book, like I said, series sell, Colony Launch, not as much. I mean, it's doing fine. I've made money off of it. Don't worry. But it is just the reality that people want longer series. And so obviously, if a single book is a problem, then a short fiction is going to be even more. That's just how the market is. I'll put these in the description below to have you guys check it out. Thank you for supporting the work. I really, really appreciate everybody who reads. We're building a beautiful group. Make sure to get on the newsletter so I don't lose you. Very, very important right here. You get 3 free books for doing so. We'll be back soon.